Let's have another episode of GURPSifying the Bestiary. This time I'm going to tackle a request, not pick a monster at random. The monster in question is Kamaitachi, a Japanese yokai. D&D does not have this creature, not even in Oriental Adventures, but Pathfinder has it in Bestiary 6, so at least I have a base to use as a springboard. So what's a Kamaitachi? It's a human-sized weasel with sharp sickle claws in place of feet. It can fly by suspending itself in a magical dust devil. Another signature ability is to delay damage dealt by the claws to hold the victim hostage. Due to its sadistic nature, the Kamaitachi may force the hostage or its loved ones to perform some horrible deeds. The spirit itself is quite fickle, so it might kill the hostage anyway. Honestly, that does not sound compelling to me. Seems like one of the evil for the lols monsters. But let's go with it for now. Let's start building the template, starting with the body. I already have the final result here, but I will show you the process nonetheless. I use my dire weasel template as a base, scaled it down to size modifier +0, and made some additional tweaks. Of course, this spirit is intelligent, so I replaced the IQ penalty with a minor IQ bonus. The huge dexterity bonus seems appropriate for the monster, but strength should not be high. This is your typical glass cannon. Of course, I gave it sadism. It's only appropriate here. Now, there is something that I want to change from the Pathfinder stat block. While the main mode of movement for this creature is flight, it still has a good ground move. How would you walk this fast on these? I'll reduce its basic move by 4. This is going to be a good weakness if its flight gets disabled somehow. Since this is a spirit, not a simple weasel, it will also have some other qualities. I gave it 2 levels of magic resistance, improved, and vulnerability to cold iron. That's typical for Fae in D&D. The creature is also said to constantly be under the effect of the Greater Magic Fang spell, so let's give it the Magic Touch perk from Dungeon Fantasy 20 Slayers. This one will make all natural attacks of the Kamaitachi count as magical weapons, for the purpose of weaknesses and resistances. That's actually a very useful perk. There is no information about the diet, lifespan and reproduction, so I will assume that it's a carnivore, just like a normal weasel. As for the lifespan, there is no consistent trait for that in D&D. Fae or spirits can have human lifespans and some may be immortal. There is no consistency, so I will just go with the normal lifespan. This creature is said to live in the sky, so I'll have to give it at least 5 levels of temperature tolerance to cold, and also the pressure tolerant lungs thin perk. Now let's make the sickle blades themselves. It seems that they should be able to both deal cutting and impaling damage, but they're still claws. Plus, they look metallic to me. You know, since these are literal sickle blades, why not make them work like sickles? For that, I'll have to use the natural weapons from Pyramid 365. Since I replace both sets of extremities, I'll have to give the Kamaitachi 2 sets of identical natural weapons. It will only be able to use swing damage, but will be able to use either cutting or impaling damage. When used as impaling weapons, the sickle blades might get stuck like picks. Since the creature has DR1, the resilient enhancement, this one, that makes it a very fine weapon. It multiplies the DR and results in DR5, which is pretty good. In addition, I decided to give it Armor Divisor 2 to complement its concept. Finally, I had to come up with my own enhancement, Hook Sharp. so it will be able to use its natural weapons as hooks. So now the creature has actual sickle blades that use unique rules such as those for having your weapon get stuck and hook. This will really make it feel different from any other monster with normal claws. And since the blade seems to be made of metal, let's also give the Kamaitachi the affected by magnetism quirk. This is a very situational weakness to certain spells and effects that will feel very rewarding to the player who managed to exploit it. Now, what about the delayed damage effect? Usually I would do it by giving the creature a very limited imbue advantage and a sudden death imbuement skill, but that's lame. Also, if I were to do that, the Kamaitachi would be able to use it with its bite, for example, and this ability should be unique to its claws. But thanks to using natural weapons, I can just apply delay. Triggered, plus 50% to the natural weapon advantage and call it a day. However, there is a small detail here. While the claws themselves are not magical, this delayed damage effect is a magical ability, so I'll have to limit the enhancement by applying magical to it. So this will result in a plus 45% enhancement. I also have to come up with a cancellation clause. The 1 mile range limit that is described in the Pathfinder version seems fine, as does the remove curse spell. There is also this thing. The Kamaitachi must use this delay damage ability, it cannot opt out of it. But it becomes able to use the clause to deal immediate normal damage if this magical ability is somehow suppressed. This will turn it into a hit and run monster. It rushes in, deals several swift attacks, then retreats and uses concentrate to actually cause injury. I'll have to facilitate this type of tactic with other abilities. I do it by giving it extra attack, and also its speed is high enough to do that. Now I have to build a Dust Devil ability that is essential to this monster, this one. This ability serves 3 functions: flight, deflection of projectiles, and obscuring senses. That shouldn't be difficult, even though it might look difficult here. Just link together flight, a limited enhanced dodge, and 2 obscures. The Pathfinder description also mentioned the possibility of disabling the Dust Devil with certain spells, and I really would like to include it. This is going to be a nuisance effect. Such spells as Shape Air or Vacuum will disable this ability for 3D seconds. That sounds nice, as it gives extra utility to certain spells, and Shape Air is not that useful of a spell as is. What about the skills? It will need a high level of brawling and aerobatics. Area knowledge probably is necessary for all the vile exploits that it can force a hostage to do. There is no survival specialty for the sky, but I assume that the Kamaitachi hunts on the ground, so I will just add survival local terrain type. Stealth is probably unnecessary, as its flight is noisy. Oh, and intimidation, because it's a must here. And a few points in the hook technique. And that's it, the template is done. How would a Kamaitachi fight? It depends on what it wants and what it rolled against sadism. If it just wants to kill, it will swoop into close combat, deal as many potentially lethal attacks, such as cutting attacks to the neck or impaling attacks at the vitals, then retreat and concentrate to activate the wounds. If it wants to indulge in sadism, it will do the same, but instead of activating all the wounds, it will only activate one, and attempt intimidation to force the victim to back off and reconsider. Then of course it might force it to perform some heinous act, like killing his friend under the threat of death, and then the Kamaitachi may let him go, or not. If you want to fight the Kamaitachi, landing a hit will be difficult, but it will hurt, especially if you are using a cold iron weapon. Coordinate attacks with your allies, use rapid strikes and positioning. Multiple defenses are penalized. If you manage to perform a grabbing parry or a judo parry, then you're in luck, as the weasel does not have high strength, but it can still wiggle out of a grapple due to double jointed. If you bring magic to the table, shape air, hold metal, repel metal, or any area attack, especially vacuum, will work wonderfully. How can I as a GM use it? Honestly, this does not seem like a compelling or interesting monster to me, but I guess I could use it in a quest once, just as an enemy that the PCs have to deal with, and that probably holds one or two NPCs hostage that will fight alongside it. But I don't think it is possible to use it in any other way due to its one-dimensional nature. That's a shame, as mechanically this monster is interesting. And that's all for today. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.